Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, and that is our executive producer, Huck L. Berry. Yeah, Huckleberry. And yes, she is going to be here. Maybe not. Yeah, she'll be here. She's going to hang out. She likes to move around. Just a reminder, got the cruise coming up. Big guests, Joe Hauser, Chris Bledsoe. Bledsoe is going to possibly summon up some UFOs while we're on the ship. We're going to talk him into it, see if he can do it. He claims he can, so let's see if he can. And yeah, it's going to be a monster trip. Huge, huge, huge. September, leaving out of Seattle, go to Gather Up. Gather Up is one word. Gather Up events. And type in the Missing 411 Cruise. I guarantee it'll be a blast. And there's our poster for Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State. Release date March 21st in Tacoma, Washington. Go to missing411.com for details. It will be huge. Yes, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, we've been working on that premiere for 3 months, and it's going to be really fun. We've got some special guests coming. We're going to do some special interviews. I'll be there the entire time, and yeah, it's going to be big. Now, on the home front, people have asked me just lately, hey Dave, does my phone have a personal locator beacon on it? The only thing I know for sure is that every new Apple phone does. Correct. You don't even have to get a personal locator beacon. It's built into the phone. I don't get any money for saying that from Apple, but facts are facts. So I do carry one, but I also carry a personal locator beacon besides that. I'm extra cautious. Right now, we had a bizarre day today. In northwest Montana, it was 50 degrees. Snow is melting at a record pace. Everybody here in northwest Montana, my friends in Idaho, and my friends in eastern Washington are all scared silly. Why? Because we haven't had enough snow at all, and there's not much snow on the ground. And that usually means, if you've been here for a few years, you know that that means fires in the summer. And that means smoke. And if we're having them here, it means that they're going to have them in southern Canada as well. And it just sickens me. Really does sicken me. But life moves on. Yes, life moves on. The other day, I was listening to a monk talk. He came on. I didn't even choose to listen to him, but when I started listening to him, he had my attention. And he said things that really hit home for me. He said, don't live in the past. He said, if tragedy strikes you, use it as a lesson. Take the lesson, learn from it, but don't live daily by it. And when you wake up in the morning, project happiness, project goodwill, and those internal projections will more than likely lead to those things happening in your day. If you focus on a downward cycle, if you focus on negativity, then that may be the way your day goes. So since I heard that, I took it to heart. I started waking up. I'd wake up, walk out, see Huck, and go, "Hey, we're going to have a great day today, Huck." And she'd be wagging her tail. So she knows. My days have been good. I think we can learn a lot listening to some people. Today, I've got 2 cases for you. Now, the first case involves a young girl, but don't go away, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't take the sadness." This isn't sad. We learn from these. This isn't sad. Her name was Kathy Osgard, 16 months old, missing September 15th, 1964 at 3 p.m. The most optimum time to disappear is 4 p.m. That's right, 4 p.m. She was missing from her parents' homestead property 8 miles northeast of High Prairie, Alberta. Now, honestly, I didn't know where that was. I had to look it up. Here's Edmonton. Edmonton. High Prairie is northwest, just outside of Lesser Slave Lake, one of the biggest lakes in this part of Alberta. Get you in closer there. And these are the plains. Now, originally, when I started to work for MUFON as an investigator, I thought, there's nothing goes on in the plains. It's just boring out there. It's like North Dakota, Montana, boring stuff. Wow, was I wrong. Wow, was I wrong. There is a ton of UFO activity out there. I'll cover that more in a second. But High Prairie is located in a place called Lakes County. A lot of water out there. A lot of big lakes. It's 368 kilometers northwest of Edmonton. And the area is known for agriculture, forestry, and oil. And believe it or not, this little town of High Prairie thrives on tourism because it's so close to Lesser Slave Lake. But back in '64, the population wasn't that big. And the Osgards lived 8 miles outside the city on their little homestead. And they were farmers. Well, on September 15th, 1964, 16-month-old Kathy was placed in her front yard to play. Her mom came back minutes later and she was gone. The mom called for the dad. They both searched for her, called her name, no response. The property that surrounded the house was thick bush, and then they hit their open fields. The parents were perplexed because she'd never done this before. And she wasn't answering their calls, which she would normally do. Family searched for an hour, and then they called the RCMP for help. And then they called a couple neighbors, who called a couple more neighbors, who called a couple more neighbors, and a chain started to form. RCMP arrived. They did their cursory search, called her name, got no answers. They were trained trackers. They looked around, couldn't find any tracks to follow. And they requested a canine unit to start responding. The RCMP also put out a radio request amongst all the locals that they needed a whole bunch of searchers to help them. Well, like parts of the U.S., rural Canada, everybody looks out for each other. And when one family needs help, everyone drops everything and goes to help. And this is what happened here. Over 400 local residents responded before nighttime to their house. And they were divided into groups by the RCMP, what parts to search, where to search, etc. Before the masses got there, though, an RCMP dog arrived, and it searched for several hours. It never picked up a scent, and it never found her. And when you consider that that property doesn't have a lot of odd scents to get mixed up with others. In a city, sometimes a dog maybe gets confused. I've never seen it, but I've heard that dogs get confused by a mass number of senses or other dogs' urine, etc. Not here. Very rural. Dog should have picked up that scent right away and been on that girl within minutes. The main search area was defined by the RCMP as 1 mile wide and 2 miles long. That's a pretty accurate representation of how much should have been searched. And they were on this from the very beginning. They never slowed down. Late in the afternoon, just as it starts to get dark, the weather started to change. How many times on a search does this happen, you guys? I've told you this before. And it started to rain. Many searchers stayed on scene all night. And why? Because they knew the danger. Temperatures were going to go down into the mid-30s at night, and they knew she wasn't dressed for it. She didn't have a raincoat, sweater, coat. Just has shoes, pants, shirt. That's it. And it was raining. Mid-30s and rain, a small child would get hypothermia immediately. Immediately. Well, searchers were also concerned about bears because the other farmers in the area, as well as Mr. Osgard, knew that 2 big bears had been shot and killed in the area in the previous weeks. So a lot of the searchers were carrying big rifles. They weren't going to take any chances. If they saw a bear, they were just going to shoot it. And I understand. The next day, September 16th, a man named William Bissell heard the radio calls go out needing searchers. He was from a small town called Enilda, and that was just east of High Prairie, another small town. He decided that he was going to get up in the middle of the night, do his farm chores, get in his car, and drive to the Osgard residence and help. And he got there before it was light. He got there about 4:30 in the morning. Talked to some people who were there, and they said, yeah, everyone went this way, why don't you go that way? So he started going out. And he says, as he walked into the thicket, just on the outside of the house, he heard a small cry. He said, I just walked in that direction. And at 5 a.m., Mr. Bissell found Kathy on the ground crying. The September 1764 edition of the Daily Herald had this. It said that the youngster was in a spot repeatedly combed in earlier searches and was only 1/4 of a mile away from her home. Okay, let's hold on right there. This would mean that Kathy would hear all of those searchers going in and out, in and out, in and out. The area she's in, repeatedly searched by others. Their words, not mine. Well, Mrs. Osgard, Kathy's mom, hears right away that her daughter's been found alive. She faints in her home and falls on the floor. Some other searchers pick her up, put her on the couch. She's not really doing well. Kathy's brought in, And two of the searchers put the mom and the daughter in a station wagon and drive her into High Plains to get treatment. Both were in recovery that afternoon. The same article stated this: Kathy was found crying, barefoot, and nearly naked. Kathy survived. So did the mom. But why is this important? As many times as I tell you guys how important these profile points are that kind of isolate a disappearance and a case different from any others, I have never in my 20-year police career gone on a call of a missing child and not have a dog find that child within 15 minutes. It's never happened. The number of times this happens in the cases I'm telling you, it's off the chart. I don't get it. Well, I do get it, but... So the profile points on this. Number one, she's missing clothing and missing shoes. You can't ignore that. Searchers never said they found them. So where are they? Point of separation. Her mom left her in the yard. Something happened. She'd never walked away before. So that was number two. Number three, weather. Late that afternoon, the weather changed. Started rain. It got cold. Oddly, it was never stated if Kathy was found wet or hypothermic. It never said it. Number four, RCMP canine didn't find Kathy. Didn't find a scent trail. I don't understand how that's possible. The area was previously searched. Kathy's found in an area searched multiple times. I've said this multiple times. This is routine. A CTV, that's Canadian TV News article of March 20th, 2025. The headline on the article is, Albertans are the second most likely in Canada to be abducted by aliens. It was on Canadian news. Yeah. The Albertans reported 729 reported UFO sightings since 1974. Bizarre. Bizarre. Ontario was number one for abductions. One in every 667 citizens in Ontario had seen a UFO. So, you don't think it's active out there? Yeah, right. So, remember I told you, it's a feel-good story. She's found, she's alive. Now, I don't think I remember anything from when I was 16 months old. I think the earliest memory I have was probably 5 years old, 6 years old, first grade, kindergarten. So I don't think going through regressive hypnosis would do any good. I don't know. But it'd be interesting. Next case. Now, Kathy's case occurred in 64. This case occurred in 66. Man's name was Gonzales Valdez. Now, stop right there. It's not because I don't look, but there are not a lot of Hispanic cases of people that disappear. Odd, very odd. Now, Gonzales Valdez was 80 years old. He went missing June 17th, 1966 at 3:30 p.m. Oh, now remember, Kathy disappeared at 3 p.m. And the most common time to disappear? 4 p.m. So two of these cases right around that time. Now, Gonzales was a ranch hand. Yeah, I know, at 80 years old, it seems obscene, but he was a ranch hand at property 10 miles south of Santa Fe, New Mexico. He was last seen wearing green denim pants and a brown shirt. Other employees said that Gonzales was a long-time ranch hand and he went off looking for a steer that disappeared. Okay. What causes cattle to disappear? And whatever causes the cattle to disappear, does that also take the people? Because if you've read many of my books, or you're a longtime follower of my work, you know that a number of people have disappeared going off looking for cattle. I think that's weird. Because, you know, they're not lost. They know their property like you know your backyard. They're not going to get lost. So once the other hands realized that Gonzales was missing, everyone started to search on horseback. They rode out. And as they're doing this, the weather started to change. It started to rain heavy. So the family who owned the ranch at 4:30 decided to call the New Mexico State Police. And the police called for additional searchers and additional law enforcement because they needed help. Because right away, if the ranch hands couldn't find them, it was doubtful the police were going to find them right away as well. Well, the next day was June 18th, and the state police sergeant in charge was a man named Madison, and he organized a search and rescue. Other ranches in the area sent people. They had 125 searchers, local sheriffs, and state police. That was a pretty good show up. And the search on the 18th went from sunrise to 9 p.m. Nobody found anything. They also sent, the Santa Fe Boy Scouts sent a group down to help with the search on the ground pounding side. And they also sent the sheriff's posse from Santa Fe. They were getting significant numbers down. And the New Mexico State Police sent 2 airplanes that flew the sky. Now I'll tell you, having airplanes involved in a search in New Mexico is critical. Depending on the spot you're in, there could be a little ground cover, lots of ground cover. But if you're missing, don't stay under the trees. You got to get out there in the open so the planes can see you. Now, as I've stated before, if you are missing and you see a helicopter or a plane that's looking for you, you take your coat off and you swing it around over your head. That is the best chance you'll have of that plane seeing you. I've had several search and rescue pilots tell me this. I know it's true. Sergeant Madison, the head of the search and rescue, told the press that a trucker reported seeing a man walking in an arroyo, and the trucker said it appeared to him that he was looking for something. Some people thought it maybe was Gonzales, and a good number of the searchers went to that area, and they sent one of the planes to that area to search as well. Now, Gonzales had a son named Ted. Ted spoke to the press and said his dad was very agile for his age, and he said he thought he could walk a few miles. But he also said that his dad couldn't hear or see very well. But otherwise, he was in really good health for 80 years old. The next day, June 20th, after a massive 2 days of searching, it continued one more day. Reporters finally publicized the fact that there was a massive storm that hit the ranch just after Valdez left to go search for the cow. Another weather-related event, folks. How many times do I have to tell you this? Following day, June 21st, search and rescue continued with a large number of searchers on scene, planes in the sky. They didn't quite know what else they could do. And they were stymied because they were surprised that they weren't finding some evidence of Gonzales. Next day, June 22nd, search and rescue slowed down to just under 200 people. Several of that 200 were on horseback, and that's good because you could cover a lot of mileage and because you're up high and you could see downward. There were also ground pounders going up the arroyos. And this is the first time it was mentioned that the steer that Gonzales was looking for was never found. So where did that go? On June 23rd, it was announced that all public search assistance would be terminated. And on the 24th, only private searchers were continuing their efforts. And then weirdly, on June 25th, it was reported that the Santa Fe sheriff, a man named Eddie Escudero, said a full search would resume for Gonzalo immediately. And then the next day, I couldn't make this up, the Santa Fe sheriff cancels the search and rescue. I don't know why. There's never a reason why. Sometimes it's hard to understand what goes on. But anyhow. So, July 1st, it's reported by law enforcement that 10 square miles were searched for Gonzales. 25 Boy Scouts were used for 5 days. State police specifically said that the Boy Scouts were very helpful and professional in their searching. Total search time, 8 days. And friends, that's a remarkable amount of time to search for somebody in 1966. I searched forward for 20 years, and there's no mention of Gonzales ever being found. And weirdly, there were never any theories forwarded about what might have happened. He had worked for that ranch for over 20 years, and nobody ever implied that he got lost. If you worked on property for 20 years, you wouldn't get lost either. Now, New Mexico has a long history of UFOs and cryptids. If you watch my movie American Sasquatch, there's a segment in there about this. Now, do you guys know what Project Blue Book is? It was a UFO government study run by a man named J. Allen Hynek. Well, he had a series of documented UFO sightings from 1964 to 1966 in New Mexico. Well, isn't that something? Yes, New Mexico has a very long history of UFOs. Probably one of the most famous ones is April 24th, 1964 near Socorro. A police officer named Lonnie Zamora claimed to have seen a UFO land. And then he actually took people there, and there were indentations in the ground where this UFO landed. That location was about 2 hours southwest of Gonzales' location. Since 1974, New Mexico has had 1,143 UFO sightings. Yeah, that's a lot. In the last 12 months, UFO sightings in New Mexico are up 47%. What's going on down there? Very odd. New Mexico ranks number 8 in the nation for UFO sightings. So, they've had a lot. But I take you first to Alberta and then to New Mexico, 2 locations that really have a lot of desolation associated with their locations. Yet, they both have a lot of UFO sightings. Now, in Kathy's case, I can't imagine a scenario that if she was on the ground for 14 hours and the majority of the time it's raining and all night long it gets down to 35 degrees, I would say that there is more than an even chance that she would have died from hypothermia. Kids aren't that resilient. They don't have that much fat in their body and etc. And they don't have the smarts sometimes to get in certain areas. because they never said they found her wet, maybe she was dry. But what happened to her clothes? What happened to her shoes? That's why I've stated many times, you learn a lot more about a case when somebody's found than when they're not found. All right. Thank you for being here. You are appreciated. Remember, right now, check and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. A whole bunch of people have said that they've been unsubscribed just in the last month. A whole bunch of people have said they're not getting notifications. And I can tell you that many of the cases I gave for Marin County, half of them only had half as many views as they normally would. I can't believe it. And I wouldn't even bring it up if I thought the cases I gave you were a little They were top-notch cases. Some of the best, actually, I've ever done. So go back, check Marin County Cluster. They are there. Well, thank you for being here. Always read the #1 pinned comment on every video. This is important. I always put information in there that might have happened since the time I posted the video. You guys are the best. I appreciate your comments. I read them all. Remember, missing411.com. Check it out. It's our new website. A lot going on there. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides out.